Seek and you shall find. Gotta leave this world behind. Good morning, folks. Pete Smith for the First Church of Mars. Yeah, I'm still here. Still plugging along. Got a question for all you experts in the Bible. I'm reading this 1 Corinthians 11. And, it says about that women should wear coverings on their heads, at least when they pray or when they prophesy, I guess. So does that mean every woman in church should have a hat on or covering on their head? It also mentions long hair. And it says men should not basically have long hair. It's for a woman. And, well, let's read it real quick. The part I'm talking about with the hair is 1 Corinthians 11, I think it's 14. Does not the very nature of things teach you that if a man has long hair, it is a disgrace to him? Other translations, that was the New International Version. New Living Translation, isn't it obvious that it's disgraceful for a man to have long hair? English Standard Version, does not nature itself teach you that if a man wears long hair, it is a disgrace for him? And that's basically the gist of it. Let's go on to 1 Corinthians 11:15. But that if a woman has long hair, it is her glory, for long hair is given to her as a covering. There's actually a question mark in there, so it's, but that if a woman has long hair, it is her glory, for long hair is given to her as a covering. Okay. And then 11:16. If anyone wants to be contentious about this, we have no other practice, nor do the churches of God. I just find that strange, Like Jesus had long hair, didn't he? So what is Paul saying to the Corinthians about hair? I kind of get the covering of the head. I know it's, or I believe it's an analogy for the order of, I don't know what you'd say, obedience, perhaps. You've got God, then Christ, then man, then woman. Yeah, so. See, where I get caught up is that when I read stuff like this, it makes me think, well, they don't really mean that today, or yeah, it says that, but you got to remember back then things were like this or that. And then I say, well, then we have to take the whole Bible like that. We can't just take one part and say this part doesn't count because back then, unless you're going to take the whole Bible and say back then it was like this, but today it's like this. So, I mean, you can't have it both ways. That's what I'm saying, right? Let me just go back to 1 Corinthians, I guess it's 11. I guess it's 11. Let's go right to 11. 11:3 maybe? About covering the head. That's what I don't get, guys. Sometimes I think you're better off just following Jesus. Just ask Jesus what he thinks. That, like, what Paul wrote down is Paul's opinion of what Jesus said and meant. But if it's not what Jesus said or did in his action, And it's just Paul's interpretation of that, which I guess everybody's got an interpretation of Jesus, but of what Jesus said, or even the ones that are just translating word for word as best they can remember what Jesus said or did, that's still subject to their interpretation of what they heard and what they saw. But it's better than just someone's opinion about, well, I think he, this big, long sort of discussion, kind of like what I'm having with you here, or with myself. Hello, video. Just ask yourself in your heart what Jesus meant by that. By what he said or what he did. I don't know. Corinthians 1. 1 Corinthians 11:1. Follow my example as I follow the example of Christ. I'll just read the New International Version for now. I praise you for remembering me in everything and for holding to the traditions just as I pass them on to you. Thank you for remembering what I've said last time. But I want you to realize that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is man, and the head of Christ is God. So that's where you've got your hierarchy, your chain of command, so to speak. Then it goes into this. Every man who prays or prophesies with his head covered dishonors his head. Now, Paul just said that the head of man is Christ. So, if he's saying his head is covered, is he saying that Christ is covered? In other words, he prays or prophesies without being in Christ, or of Christ, or from Christ, or for Christ? Is that what he's talking about when he means the head? Because he just said the head was Christ. 11:5. But every woman who prays or prophesies with her head uncovered dishonors her head. It is the same as having her head shaved. So is that saying her head, who is man, uncovered? In other words, she's praying. Every woman who prays or prophesies with her head, man, uncovered, dishonors her head, dishonors her man. It's the same as having her head shaved. Now I could really get into what the head thing, like, are they talking about the physical head, or are they talking about Christ or man as the head? But I'm not going to. I'm just going to take what it says. And by what it says, it just seems outdated. And so that's why I lean more towards, we can go and we can study the Bible. We can go back and the Old Testament and read what it said, and even the New Testament. But when it comes right down to it, it's a guidebook. And it needs to be interpreted as such. If you take every word literally and every meaning literally, you're going to get tripped up. But if you read it and say, how does this apply to me in my daily life today, knowing that this was written 2,000 years ago, or sometimes less, but... So, I don't know, guys. What do you think? Should I just cut off my hair? Cut off my ponytail? Yeah, maybe. Maybe that's the idea. Maybe get rid of this hair. Maybe this hair is not for me. Maybe it's an abomination. Maybe it's me too much in touch with my feminine side. I could say I like it, but I could do without it. I actually grew my hair because I thought it might give me more acting jobs back when Game of Thrones was popular, and Lord of the Rings and things like that. And I was like, yeah, they're hiring a lot of people with long hair. And plus I wanted edgier roles, I didn't want the straight and narrow roles, the conservative roles. I didn't want to be typecast as the dad at that point, or I'm older than that now, but yeah, as the dad, or the lawyer, or the politician, or the grandfather, the wise grandfather. I wanted edgier roles. Anyway, something to think about. Maybe I should cut my hair. Maybe if I cut my hair, something will change. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little conversation. Please let me know what you think. If you have any advice, if you have any insight, if you're a scholarly type, put it in the comments. I'll read them. Thanks for watching. I'm Pete Smith. This is the First Church of Mars, because we are down here in Port Isabel, Texas, right near SpaceX. I can see the towers right over there, going to Mars. All right, thanks for watching.
To seek and you shall find. Gotta leave this world behind.